Hey guys, my name is Rob, and today we're unboxing the Wolverine V3 Tournament Edition and comparing it to the V3 Pro that we previously reviewed. This video is way overdue, and I apologize for that. I kind of went back and forth on whether I wanted to make this video or not because the two controllers are so similar, but I actually found a couple of things that are not only different, but also weren't really disclosed by Razer, and one of those differences actually has a noticeable impact to performance. Because of that, I wanted to share my findings and thoughts in case it could still help some people make an informed decision if they're considering buying either of these gamepads. I'm just jumping through the unboxing here as there's not a ton to say since we did recently unbox and review the V3 Pro. Essentially, we have cheaper packaging with less stuff in the box, which is not surprising as this gamepad is half the price of the V3 Pro. The Tournament Edition does not come with a carrying case, extra thumbstick caps, or a wireless dongle since it's a wired-only controller. It does come with a manual made in the same style as the Pro versions and the same 10-foot USB-A to USB-C cable. So visually these two gamepads look virtually the same, with the only noticeable difference being the white lettering on the Pro version. They also offer most of the same features. We have Razer's Mecha Tactile face buttons, which are kind of a hybrid. They have micro switches, but they also have a rubber membrane for comfort. They feel okay. You do get the tactile click when they activate, which I appreciate, but they also feel a little squishy. Some people prefer that, I know, but unfortunately I'm not one of them. We also have a mechanical D-pad, which Razer refers to as an 8-way floating D-pad, and you can kind of see what they mean here. This feels good as far as actuating, but I've recently started playing some old school fighting games via emulators specifically to test D-pads for reviews because so many people have asked, and I'll have to say I don't love this one. I feel like it's a little too easy to actuate the diagonals, I guess, such that I'm not super consistent hitting roll-offs with this controller. The other face buttons are the view and menu buttons, and then we have a share button as this is a licensed Xbox controller, and then also the function button. You can use the function button for a few things. First, you can hold function and press up or down on the D-pad to change the volume. According to the instruction manual for both gamepads, you can hold the function button and press the left button to decrease the haptic feedback or rumble strength, and the right button to increase it, but unfortunately this doesn't work on my Tournament Edition. I have no idea why, it just doesn't do anything, and I've tried it while connected to the app as well. It does work with the V3 Pro. You can also use the function button to program additional inputs on the controller by holding function plus one of the extra buttons for 2 seconds, and then tapping the button that you want to reassign. Both the TE and Pro versions do have Hall effect thumbsticks, which I'm glad to see on the Wolverine line. They look exactly the same, however there is one major difference between the two models that I was a little surprised by. On Razer's FAQ page for the V3 models, they do list swappable thumbstick caps as one of the main differences between the Pro and the TE models. However, I assume that was just referring to the fact that the Pro comes with 2 additional caps. As it turns out, the thumbstick caps on the TE aren't removable at all, so you also can't buy additional cap options separately for it. I'm not terribly bothered by this as I'm always going to use Control Freaks anyway, but to some people this is a major downside. Moving to the top, the shoulder buttons and the additional top buttons are both micro switch buttons. These feel and perform exactly the same as they do on the V3 Pro. Then we do have analog triggers. But then when we look at the back here, we do have 2-way trigger locks. Again, these are exactly the same as the trigger locks on the Pro, so you get this super short mouse click trigger, and these are fantastic. And finally, we have the 4 rear buttons, which are the same as those on the Pro version, and these are just infinitely better than the prior system Razer used. Like literally every other button on the controller, these are micro switches, and these are some of the best rear buttons on any Pro controller currently. So the TE and the Pro have the same layout, the same physical buttons, and look very much the same, but unfortunately they don't feel the same. This was literally the first thing I noticed when I picked up the TE, because it's very obvious, and that is that the rear grips on the TE are not rubberized like those on the Pro, but instead are just textured plastic. This is in no way mentioned on the spec page or in that list of differences we looked at on Razer's FAQ page, but it absolutely should be, and it's the second most disappointing thing about the controller to me. We're going to jump over and do some testing, so we'll pretty quickly get to the number 1 issue on that list. We're not going to spend very much time on the app here, one because we just went over all of the app options on the V3 Pro review a few weeks ago, and also because there's just not that much to see here. You can set up multiple profiles, but you have to open the app to change between them. You can't do it on the fly. In the profiles, you can assign buttons, but you can only reassign the 6 extra buttons, not any of the other buttons on the controller. And you can also only assign gamepad inputs, no keyboard inputs with the Wolverine V3. Down at the bottom of the remap list, you can assign a clutch to one of the M buttons, and this feature basically allows you to drastically reduce the sensitivity of one or both of the sticks while you're holding the clutch button. You can adjust the thumbstick settings, including dead zones, but this is super limited as you can't set it by increments of 1. Your options are 0, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11%. Just like with the V3 Pro, my TE does not have a perfect resting point when set at 0 dead zone, and on the left stick it's not even perfect at 3%, and this is after recalibrating the sticks. You can also adjust the rumble strength in the app. This is very simple as well, with settings from 0 to 6, and you can't set the vibration intensity separately on left and right. And then the only other setting here is under wired controller setting, which is where you can swap between Xbox mode and PC mode, though it also shows you here that you can do this on the fly by pressing function plus start and X to enter Xbox mode, or function plus start and A to enter PC mode. Xbox mode has a 250 Hz polling rate, while PC mode has 1000 Hz polling rate, though as it says here, you can't use the app while in PC mode, so when you change it to PC mode, the app automatically shuts down. I did run Gamepad LA to verify the polling rates, and as you can see here, we did get right at 250 Hz in Xbox mode and about 890 Hz in PC mode, so not quite that advertised 1000 Hz. That said, this is very close to the results I got with the V3 Pro, which again was right at 250 Hz in Xbox mode and about 840 in PC mode. Jumping over to Gamepad Tester, I got some pretty wonky results here. For the sake of consistency, I have the inner dead zones on both sticks set to 3%, and as I already mentioned, you can see here that the left stick does not consistently bounce back to the same resting spot. It's far enough off that you can easily see the dot is not centered as well. I first ran the circularity test using the standard or rectangular circularity mode, and you'll notice on the left stick that we're not getting super even shading here. That's affecting both top corners, and it's more pronounced on the right. I tested in circular mode as well and expected this to be a non-issue there, since a circular algorithm basically just limits the exterior input, and what we're seeing in the standard algorithm is that the inputs aren't even beyond the edges of the testing circle. But as you can see here, the left stick isn't reaching the outer boundary on either top corner in circular mode. Typically I wouldn't use circular mode on the left joystick anyway, but you can't set them independently on the Wolverine V3 gamepads, so yeah, this is a really rough result. In comparison, this is the V3 Pro set to circular mode, and these are the results you would expect to get with Hall effect sticks, basically zero average error in circular mode. Even if the left stick matched the right stick on the TE, that 0.5% is still an outlier compared to every other Hall effect controller I've ever tested. I think the largest error I'd seen previously on Hall effect sticks set to circular algorithm was either 0.2 or 0.3% maybe. So these results on the circularity test are pretty concerning, but to me they're not quite as damning as the resolution results. As you'll see here, the resolution numbers on the Tournament Edition are super low, coming in at under 100 points, and I ran this test multiple times on both the left and right stick and got these same measurements each time. What's really odd about this is that the resolution numbers for the V3 Pro are significantly higher at 155 points, so a little over 50% higher. Based on the circularity and resolution test, I don't know what is or isn't different in terms of the physical components of the Pro and TE versions of this gamepad, but I will say that the Pro version feels significantly better to use in-game, particularly after the firmware update that was released a couple of weeks ago. So I honestly wasn't that impressed by the Wolverine V3 Pro, and I said as much in my review. I also said at that time that to me, this just isn't a $200 controller, and since I really don't care about the wireless feature or the carrying case, I probably should have waited for the Tournament Edition to come out, but I was wrong. I still maintain that $200 is pretty steep for the V3 Pro, considering the very limited customization available in the software app, and the fact that the 1000 Hz mode is limited to wired PC play only, but the Tournament Edition has these same drawbacks as well as a few more, enough that if I were to return one of these controllers, it would absolutely be the Tournament Edition. I do want to say that I specifically love the inputs on these controllers, meaning the face buttons, the back buttons, and especially the trigger locks, which I would argue are the best microswitch triggers currently available on any controller, and I keep picking this thing up and trying it again because of those features, but gameplay-wise, it just doesn't perform well enough to justify using it. I hope this video helped you out, and if so, please subscribe if you haven't already. Likes are also appreciated, and I do try to react and respond to as many comments as possible. I'll be doing more reviews regularly, so I hope to see you back here again soon. Thanks for watching.